I certainly join my colleagues in thanking you for this opportunity for a substantive conversation of this sort. And my admiration to all the members. You've got a lot on your plates, and it's an act of courage to submit yourselves to a lot of presidents in a row saying what's on their minds. I've been at New College 20 years, kind of snuck up on me. Came when we were still part of University of South Florida. I spent 17 years at private liberal arts colleges, Davidson College in North Carolina, Oberlin College in Ohio. This was my first time in a public setting. And if you put that together, you realize I came as an administrator at the University of South Florida, because I was at New College of the University of South Florida. I came to be the provost. I mention that simply because with respect to the system-wide issues, I have a bit of a perspective across institutional lines just out of habit. And of course, we shared the campus with USF up until our independence in 2001. New College last year had the 50th anniversary of its founding. And we went through a lot of administrative changes. We started as a private school founded by the combination of the City of Sarasota, the Chamber of Commerce, and believe it or not, the Congregational Church. We became public in 1975 because the private school never built up its endowment to the point where it could sustain itself. Interestingly, nice irony, the member of the legislature, former House member and senator, who Sarasota-based legislator who created the plan to keep us in business and make us public, is now our board chair, former State Senator Bob Johnson, who I'm sure is known to many of you, attorney in Sarasota, who, by the way, has sent 2 of his grandchildren to New College. During that 50th year anniversary, we were very conscious of the fact that through all these changes, and of course we were spun off as the 11th member of the system in 2001, at which point Governor Bush vetoed our startup money because he was not happy with that development, but he would become our best friend later on, quick to add. But an anniversary like your 50th makes you very conscious of what sustained you through all those changes, and I mention this because I think this is useful for, again, the system-wide considerations. We were very clear about our mission through all those changes, just as we are today. A very student-centered, undergraduate-only liberal arts institution, putting an emphasis not simply on the traditional liberal arts and sciences curriculum, but an emphasis on active and individualized learning, which is, I think, where our true distinctiveness lies. We are, if you don't know, we are right on the Ringling property along the Sarasota Bayfront. We're neighbors with the Ringling Museum of Art. It's a great privilege to have that kind of property. When we started our first standalone campus master plan after we separated from USF in 2001, our first planning principle was, well, our thought was, what's the very worst thing we could imagine people 50 years from now saying about the decisions we make today? And we collectively agreed across the campus, the very worst thing we could imagine people saying is, why, oh, why did they mess up the Bayfront? They have this beautiful Bayfront, and why were they not proper stewards? And we kind of went from there. But over the years, we've been distinctive in the following ways. All of our students are required to be full-time. We'd never given grades other than sort of a pass-fail system, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. That doesn't mean students don't get feedback. They get feedback in a form very onerous to faculty. They get narrative evaluations, anywhere from 1 to 2, sometimes even 3-page long evaluations of strengths and weaknesses, which are collected at the end of each semester by the student's faculty advisor, and the student and the advisor go over these evaluations to determine what areas need particular work or attention, or what are your academic choices leading to. The ones that drive the system as a whole nuts used to drive the registrar's office at USF nuts. We do not operate by credit hours. We have a way of formulating credit hours for purposes of tuition and all the rest. But instead of using credit hours as a registration device, our students design what we call learning contracts. Each semester, they undertake to make a statement of their goals for the semester, and then list the combination of courses, tutorials, those would be one-on-one weekly meetings with a faculty member in a given field, community service, other activities that would constitute achieving those goals for the semester. If there's something wrong with it, or if it doesn't seem like a good enough load, or if it's not balanced, and looking ahead to the general ed issue, the faculty member will lobby. It's a negotiation. But once both the sponsor and the student are satisfied with this contract, they both sign it, and at that point, the student becomes responsible for satisfying the terms of the contract. He or she went into this enterprise with a great deal of leeway, but they quickly learned that the flip side of their freedom is accountability. And all of this is leading towards a senior thesis that all students are required to do. There are aspects of our program that try to build research skills among our students to the point where they're ready to go at that thesis year and don't have to learn those skills then. And at the end of the thesis, the student has an oral exam on the thesis. Have to be at least 3 faculty members on the exam committee. And these oral exams are open to the campus community. And the student is required to bring a copy of his or her transcript of all they did during their 4 years at New College, or 5 or 6. And at the end of the oral exam on the thesis, everything on that transcript is fair game for questioning. So the aim is to produce independent, self-starting learners who are driven by curiosity and not by GPA, and who over time, as they increase their responsibility for their undertaking, have a strong sense of ownership of their learning experience. Now, all this is undertaken with a very self-conscious emphasis on the liberal arts. We only have 1 degree program, BA. If you're a chemistry major, you get a BA. If you're an English major, you get a BA. Our most popular majors, by the way, are marine biology, psychology, anthropology, Judy, and political science. Strong on the social sciences. We have strong physics and chemistry programs and mathematics program as well. And most of our students, within 5-6 years, some of you have seen some of the data. I have some questions about some of the data you've seen, but by and large, it's accurate to say that even though only about 35% go on to graduate school immediately after graduation, about 80% go on to graduate school within about 5 years of graduation. So we have something of a reputation as a feeder school for graduate schools. I've been curious about the statewide conversation about the liberal arts. I get teary-eyed about the whole idea of the liberal arts. I just think it's a fundamental educational core. I think the colleges of arts and sciences at our big university remain the heart of those universities, whatever may be the publicity coming out of the PR offices of the large universities. And I say this in part, not just as an apologist for the liberal arts, but when a parent or someone sort of challenges me and says, student's going to major in my field's philosophy and religion, student's going to major in philosophy, what are they going to do with that? The things you say at a moment like that turn to the practical impracticality of a liberal arts education. If your son or daughter majors in this field, they're going to build critical skills that will serve them well through a lifetime of learning. They're going to learn how to think across boundary lines. They're going to learn the skills of clear communication, oral and written communication. They're going to learn how to argue in a classroom environment in a way that realizes the people with whom they disagree are not their enemies. They simply have a different way of coming at Hamlet, Shakespeare, or the issue of the ratio between human caused and naturally caused factors in red tide, or the balance between duties and rights in life in democratic society. These are tough issues that you thrash out over time at a good liberal arts college, and agreement will be a rare thing, and the person across the table is not your enemy. I submit that it's those very traits that are very important for improving our own democratic practices. I had 40% of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are liberal arts graduates. I'm glad that President Delaney upped that to 50%. because we know when we go to those folks, and one of the societies I'm a member of regularly hires consultants to go to Fortune 500 companies and say, what do you want most from graduates of liberal arts colleges? We find out how valued liberal arts graduates are in those settings, ranging from everything that I've alluded to, such as the ability to learn how to learn, but also increasingly there's an emphasis on teamwork skills and the ability to work well in a team setting, which is increasingly becoming sort of ranked there in the first one or two things that people name.